Hi, welcome back to developing your WordPress site. Today we're going to go over links and how to find some Creative Commons images, why you should use Creative Commons images, how to get those uploaded and added to your site. So let's get into the links. So links are really pretty easy. In fact, if you were following along with the previous video and you have your button added to your resume page to download the PDF of your resume, then you've already done a link. But in addition to that one button, you need to have some regular links on your site. So I wanted to start here with the expectations document that I've uploaded to Schoology so we could take a quick look at that. So notice on the second page, I've got the information about the Creative Commons licensed image that you would need to have on your contact page, and then an overall. And so these are some of the things I'll be looking for the complete draft of your website. This includes at least 2 to 3 links, so let's get into how to do that. One should be on your resume page, and then you could have others on your resume page or your about page, depending on the kind of information that you've included on those pages. So I'm going to go ahead and get into my resume page. I'm not sure if I do have anything in my about page that it would make sense to create a link out of, but I know I do for my resume page. For you all, that's going to be where you've typed in Central State University under your education, and you're going to make that link to CSU's homepage. For me, since I'm using a sort of version of my resume from when I was a grad student, I don't have a work experience listed on here to include Central, but I can still add some other ones. I still have other items on here that I can make links out of. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and get the URL for the page that I want to link to. So one of these I'm going to link to Ohio State University English department. And so I could do Ohio State's homepage, but because I was a PhD candidate in English, I'm going to go ahead and link to the English department homepage. You want to make sure that you copy the URL from your search bar there after you've pulled it up. And so now I need to figure out what text I want to make into that link. So I'm going to do just the name of the school there. And then this little icon is the link icon. So we used this a little bit too when you did the button, which for me is just above here. So I'm going to click link. And now I'm just going to paste that. And then you need to remember to either press enter or click this little enter return icon there. And now look at how it shows up as an actual link, right? With the blue and underlined. Now, I've got the option here to open in a new tab. For the purposes of the assignment, I really don't care if you choose to have things open in a new tab or not. My personal preference is most of the time, unless I have a good reason not to want my user to stay on my website, I usually will click this to open in a new tab. And then that way, if they click the link, it'll open in a new tab, but the current tab will still be on your site. But again, for the assignment's sake, in terms of points and things, I really don't care what kind of link you set up as long as it works. So I've got my link, I've got it set to open in a new tab, and I'm going to update and then view page because we always want to test any changes like that. So notice with my theme, it's set so that links don't show up as that kind of light blue with the underline. Instead, it's this sort of subtle greenish color here is how the links are set to show up. Now, I could change that, but I'm fine with it at the moment. So I want to go ahead and test my link. And there it's opened up into a new tab so that I can still go back to my website fairly easily. So you're going to want to do this at least twice on your site. The first should be easy enough for everybody because you all have Central State University listed as the first item under education because you're currently college students. And then a second item could be one of your employers. It could be a program that you mention in your About page. It could be for your high school. Any number of things that you could think about on your site that you might be able to provide a link to that would be useful for your user. And in this case, the great thing about having a resume web page is that it can have working links and do a lot more than just a regular paper resume can. So now we should talk about why you use Creative Commons images for your website before we get into how to use them. So this is a website that you've created that's available on the internet, which means that not only do you need to worry about intellectual property in terms of plagiarism, a concern you should always have with any work for any of your college courses, avoid presenting anybody else's work as your own. But now we need to worry about intellectual property rights in terms of copyright, licensing, and permissions. So if you think about the kinds of things you could post to your site with images and videos, maybe you would decide that there's a page on your site that it would make a lot of sense to post a clip from a Disney film. And that might not be a bad idea. Maybe it would look really cool. The problem is that the way that Disney works with their copyright is that if anybody posts anything from one of their films, they're going to be required to take it down very quickly. So the way around this is to get permission to use intellectual material. And normally that would involve actually contacting the person who created it and getting their permission to use it. And oftentimes that would require you to pay money to that person to be able to use the materials they've created. So the way around this is to use Creative Commons licensed images, or music or videos for that matter, which are already set up so that you don't need to ask permission to use them. The license that they've been given allows you to use them in particular ways. So I'm going to go ahead and, from the Creative Commons homepage, have us watch just a short clip of this video.
To understand Creative Commons, you need to know a little bit about how copyright works. Did you know that when you create something, anything, from a photograph to a song, to a drawing, to a film, to a story, you automatically own an all rights reserved copyright to that creativity? It's true. Copyright protects your creativity against uses you don't consent to. But sometimes full copyright is too restrictive. What about when you want all those millions and millions of people out there to use your work without the hassle of coming to you for permission? What if you want your work to be freely shared, reused, and built upon by the rest of the world? Luckily, there's an answer. Creative Commons. We provide free copyright licenses you can use to tell people exactly which parts of your copyright you're happy to give to the public. It's easy. It only takes a minute and it's totally free. Just come to our website and answer a few quick questions like, will you allow commercial uses of your work? And will you allow your work to be modified? Based on your answers, we'll give you a license that clearly communicates what people can and can't do with your creativity. You don't give up your copyright. You refine it so it works better for you. Welcome to a new world where collaboration rules. It didn't even exist just a few years ago, but now there are millions and millions of songs, pictures, videos, and written works available to share, reuse, and remix, all for free. Want to work together? Then join the Commons. Creative Commons.
I'm going to go ahead and let this play until the end of the credits so that you can see what kind of Creative Commons license this video has. But basically, the video overall is designed to give you an idea from a creator's point of view why you'd want to give your own intellectual materials a Creative Commons license. So we're going to be using this to find materials that other people have created in order to put those on your website. So by using Creative Commons licensed material, you can ensure that you aren't going to run into any legal troubles with Disney or anybody else. As long as you properly cite your sources, you should be fine. And not all Creative Commons licenses even require you to attribute the original creator, but I'm going to require you to as part of the assignment to make sure that all of your Creative Commons licensed images are properly cited. So we'll talk about how to do that as well. So Creative Commons has their own search that allows you to find the materials that are licensed in this way, which includes not just the actual Creative Commons licenses, but also public domain property and other similarly sort of open source, free to use stuff. So public domain refers to anything that is no longer under copyright. Perhaps it was at one point, but the copyright has expired, or any sort of images, videos made by the government, for instance, the military, are always given a public domain license. So those materials will be found with this kind of search too. The Creative Commons search here that the website takes you to probably works pretty well, and you've got some options here I'm going to talk about in a moment, and it's supposed to just look for images, but I do prefer the old search, which is what I've added a link to Schoology. So here on the old search, this is where the link from Schoology is going to take you to. I can search for anything and then choose specific resources to search within. So beyond just searching for images, I can do video or sound, music. And the first time you come here, you're probably going to see both of these check boxes already checked. So anything you do a search for with these default settings will come up as being able to be used for commercial purposes and to modify, adapt, or build upon. So the first thing I do when I come to a Creative Commons search is I uncheck the top box here, used for commercial purposes. For the purposes of this assignment and this course, you are not going to make any money off of your website. If you decide to try to do that after the semester ends, more power to you. But for the moment, we're not going to be using anything for commercial purposes. We're not going to try to make money off of anything. So I'm going to uncheck that. And by unchecking it, I will get more hits for whatever search that I do. Now, if I uncheck the one below it, I would get even more hits than that. But by leaving it checked, anything that comes up will have a kind of Creative Commons license that allows me to make changes to it if I want to. Most of the time I don't. I'll just take whatever I get and use it the way that it originally looks. But maybe you'll find an image that you really like, but you want to crop it to focus on just a portion of it. Or maybe you want to adjust the filter of the image to give it a certain color palette. You can do that as long as it is licensed to be modified, adapted, or built upon. So since my About page is focused on me as an English major, I'm going to go with, I've got some things that already pop up here that I've done searches for with students. I'm going to go with literature and see if I can find some images that come up, or see what comes up for literature. I could try books instead, but we'll go with literature, see what we get. And I'm going to start with a Google Images search. So I'm going to click here. Now that I've got literature written, I'm not going to just press enter or click search. I want to specify which thing I want to search into. So I'm going to use Google Images, and we've got a Google image search. Now, why didn't I just go to Google and search for literature without going through that Creative Commons search first? Because everything that I've got here is labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification. So all of the hits, because I've gone through Creative Commons, are all able for me to be used on my site without having to worry about any legal issues. Everything here is fair game. So I'm going to kind of skim through here a little bit, just get a sense of what some of the images are that pop up. Like I said, military, U.S. government images are always in the public domain. So I like a lot of the different images here, and you can see where the images are from. So I know from experience, some of these places are a little bit easier to use than others. I like this one. I'm not familiar with this source though, so we'll see if this is going to work okay or not. So when I find something in a Google Images search, I click on the image itself, and it gives me this page. I want to get to the site that this image is from. So I'm going to go ahead and click the image again. Okay, so this is the actual site where you can get the image from. Now, some of these, like I said, are easier than others because some of them require you to create an account before you can download from them. And usually when it does that, I just don't bother. I'll close it down and find a different image. If you happen to find an image that you really, really like and you want to use it, you're welcome to create an account if you want to, if you really want to get that image. But my recommendation is always to avoid creating an account, giving anybody your contact information when you can just find something free to use somewhere else. So if I go to download original image, let's see what it gives me. Okay, so this site is actually really easy to use. I've got the image here. It's giving me the little magnifying glass I can zoom in. I'm going to go ahead and right click on it. Right, so if I left click, that's just going to do the zoom. I want to right click and I'm going to either save image as or copy image address. Now for my purpose right now, I'm going to go ahead with copy image address. So I want to put this on my about page. I need at least one Creative Commons image on my about page and at least one on my contact page, which we haven't created yet. Okay, so I'm back into edit mode on my about page. I probably want to put this at or near the bottom, right? I've got the image of myself, the headshot, at the top. So my Creative Commons image is really just kind of a stock photo of books. So I want to go ahead and add that, at least for the time being. I'll just put it at the bottom here. So I'm going to the add block and I'm going to select image. Remember that you do not want to do gallery because you're just doing one image. Select this. And now remember, I copied the address, the web address for that image. So I'm going to insert from URL. So this is usually going to be the easiest way to add an image, but sometimes you'll have to save it and upload it instead. I'll show you how to do that too. So remember, we want to press enter or click the apply button, just like we wanted to do with the link. And now my image is in there. Now it's given me the image. It's currently selected. So it's got these blue circles, one here, and there's one at the bottom beneath this drop-down box. Select it again. There, you can see both. So I can resize the image now. And so most of the time you're going to want to do that. I'm going to make it maybe about 3/4 of the column. Notice that it's centered. I showed you this a few videos ago when I was manipulating the headshot on my About page. We could go up here to change the alignment. So if I do align center, it interestingly looks like it made it align left, which is normally how it looks when you first put it in there. That's how my headshot looked too, where it was aligned left, but there's no text around it. So if I want my text to wrap, I want to actually put this in as aligned left. And then if let me see if I can scoot it up. And there you see it has now put the text wrapped around it. So I mentioned before, it can be tricky to get your image and text to look just the way you want in relation to each other. You have to play with it a little bit sometimes. I can go ahead and preview this to get a better sense of it. And it's not too bad, but I think I would probably shrink down the image a little bit more, or go ahead and just put it, below everything. So I'm going to go back to edit mode, select this again, shrink it down about maybe half size-ish, and see how this looks. Okay, so this is not bad. I could keep it that way and be okay with it. So that's how you want to get your Creative Commons image added to your About page. You want to have your headshot at the top. You want to have a Creative Commons licensed image somewhere else on the page, probably at or near the bottom. And then you want to have at least one other one on your contact page, which I'll show you how to do shortly. If we were working on this in a classroom together, one of the first questions you might ask me is, what should you search for? What kind of image should you add? So for your About page, I think what's going to make the most sense for most of you would be to try to find some kind of stock image that goes with your profession, with your field that you are presenting yourself as a professional entering into or hoping to enter into. So, if you're a business major, you might do a search for boardroom. I think you might have seen that search as one of the ones I've done before. If you are wanting to go into medicine, hoping to go to med school, so I'm going to go ahead and try lab. We could try something else, but we'll see what we get with lab. So we get various, sort of images of regular labs and stuff, right? So any of these, there's a computer lab. Any of these could work. I kind of like this one. So I'm going to select that. Now, Flickr images come up in Google image searches as well. So if you did a Google image search for lab, you would probably find the same image on Flickr as one of the hits there. I specifically wanted to use Flickr because I know that to get a Flickr image, it's usually better to download it and then upload it instead of trying to do that copy web address. So, and I also want to remember, I'm going to want to come back to this web page. So I'm going to click this little download icon, and it gives me a bunch of size options. We really don't need a very large one. Images on websites are usually not all that high definition, so this medium size should work fine, and it's already downloaded it. So now I need to get over to my web page and get back into edit mode. And here again, I'm going to go ahead and add my image at the bottom. And before we did insert from URL, and you've seen me do media library before because my headshot was already in the media library. But for one that's not in there yet, you need to upload it. I'm going to go to downloads because that's where it put the image I just downloaded. Could rename it. I'm not going to bother. And there it is. With Flickr, it's easier to do the download and then upload. But with some other websites, it's easier to do the copy web address. I don't want to make this one too small because you'd lose a lot of the detail in the lab there. So maybe I'll go with about that size. And it's trying to put it beside the other one, but I want to move it down. And so here again, it's kind of centered it. If I do align center, it puts it aligned right. If I click that again, it puts it back the way I originally did. Actually, I think that's fine. At least for the purposes now, I think that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and preview. And, oh, interestingly, it puts it left aligned here again. So if I want to center that, I'm going to go click center. Now that it looks like it's left aligned, maybe it'll look centered here. Yeah, there it is. So some of this is a little bit of trial and error. Close that. Now I want to get one more image on here, not because I need another, but because I want to show you one other good source for images. So I'm going to go back to my Creative Commons search, and I didn't do anything with business yet, so let me try, and I'm going to uncheck this. I don't know why it keeps rechecking it for me. And this time I want to use Wikimedia Commons. So this is the wiki that holds all of the images that are used on Wikipedia. So it's got a lot of stuff here. I've got 3,297 hits, and the way it's showing them to me so far is just a vertical column like this. I want to scroll down a little bit. Sometimes you have to scroll down quite a ways. sometimes you have to scroll down quite a ways. You could expand this to show you 250 or 500 hits on the same page so that you could just keep scrolling and scrolling and kind of skimming over these images with your eyes. So, oftentimes the first few hits you'll get will be documents and things that aren't really what you're looking for at all. In this case, this one looks like it might work though. Let me click it. Yeah, I think I kind of like this, that this would be a good image. Boardroom. So this probably would have come up if I had done a search for boardroom instead of business presentation as well. So I'm going to close out of that. So for Wikimedia Commons, I want to click on this link. And so this gets me to the page on Wikimedia Commons for the image. And we're going to need this in order to cite our image. So I'm going to get this one on the web page over on my site, and then we're going to go over quickly how to cite your images. So we get some options up here. We can download and then upload like we did with Flickr. Or if we do use this file on the web, that should give us the web URL. And so Wikimedia Commons is great because not only does it give you the URL for the page, which is this where we're at, which we're also going to need, it gives you the file URL, which is what we want to do the upload of the image itself. And then there's also attribution information, which is wonderful. So Wikimedia Commons really makes everything very easy for what we need to do. At the moment, I need the image, so I'm going to copy and paste the file URL because that's going to be just for the image itself. And go back to my site, and maybe I'll try to add this one kind of in the middle-ish here. Click image. If image wasn't coming up under most used, you might have to scroll down and click formatting or common blocks or something. And so we should have the URL to make it work just like this, the quicker, easier way. And we always want to make sure you press enter or the apply button. And there it is. I think this one might be good centered also, so I'm going to go ahead and center it. We could manipulate the size, but I think I'm probably happy enough with the way it is. So let me preview. And there it is. We've got 4 images total, a headshot and then 3 more. So now it might be a good idea to go ahead and update to make sure it's saved all of my progress. But now what I need to do is cite all of my images. So I'm going to go to the last one first, since we were just there and Wikimedia Commons gives us all that great information. So to cite your image, you've got 2 options. One is to make the image into a link back to the source where you got the image from. So for that, I would need this page. I'm going to go ahead and copy this URL. And the reason I need this page is because not only is the image here, but if I scroll down just a little bit, it gives me all the licensing information. So it's a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3.0, unported, and then it even describes exactly what that means, which is great. So to cite the image, I want to make it a link back to this Wikimedia Commons page. I've already got the URL. I'm going to go into Edit. Now I'll click off this just so I have to click back into it. I select my image, and here we've got that link button, remember? I'm going to paste that URL, make sure I click apply or just click enter. It looks like a link here. I want to make it open in a new, well, actually I won't. I'll just leave it. I'll leave this one alone. Go ahead and update so we can test it. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the image, and if I hover, I get the little glove there, and I click it, and it takes me to the source, which has all of the citation information for who created it, what kind of license it has. So that image is cited. That's all I have to do to properly cite my Creative Commons image. And I could do that for all 3, and be good. There is another way, though, as I mentioned, to be able to cite your images. So the second way involves creating a caption. So I'm going to select my image again, and notice it gives me this write caption option down here. Now, if you're using something that is not Wikimedia Commons, if you're using a different source like Flickr or that other one I was using, and I wanted to just give a link to the page it comes from, I could go ahead and click the link button and do that and just add the link. Instead of making the image a link, I would just paste the link in as a caption. That would be an option. It's not a great option. It doesn't look very good, but it would work. But that's not what I want to do, because Creative Commons and Wikimedia Commons gives me my citation information, the attribution. So this, the person who created it is Vector Open Stock. It has the Creative Commons license information as well as a link to tell exactly what kind of Creative Commons license this is. And there's even an embed file here. I'm just going to use this attribution line. So I've copied that. And now I'm going to add that as my caption. So I'm not doing a link. Instead, I'm just pasting text. And that would work. Let me go ahead and update that. And we'll view to see what it's going to look like. And there it is. So it's made both of these into links, which I'm perfectly fine with, but it's also cited where it's come from. So that's the other way. If instead of making the image itself link, you can use a caption, you could just use that same URL, but if you could get this kind of licensing information, that's better. It's going to look better on your page that way. Let's go ahead and do these other two, since I should still have the pages they came from. So remember, for Flickr, I said we would want to keep this page up. So we downloaded the image and then uploaded it. But to cite it, we need to get to this page. So for this, I can just take the URL here, copy that, get back to my page, get back into edit mode, select my image, add the link, make sure to apply or click enter so it looks like a link. I'm not going to worry about making this one open. I'll just keep it that way. Go ahead and update. Because we've got that Flickr page open, I'm going to do it the other way too. You really don't have to do both, but I'm going to go ahead just to show you. Either way is fine. You don't have to do both. So for Flickr, this page gives us some rights reserved. I'm going to click on that. And here it tells us the exact kind of Creative Commons license it has. So I could take this, get back to my edit mode, add my caption. I'm going to paste that. And then I also want to make sure I give credit to the author, who in this case is this person. So I'm going to go ahead and get his name copied and pasted here. So just do something like that. Update, view. So now we've got the caption and we've got a working link. So I could do that with my first image as well, and I will, but I'm not going to make you wait through me doing that again as part of this video. You just need to make sure that after you get your images, you go through and cite all of them. Except your headshot, of course. And you could use other images that you take. If you have a picture on your phone that you've taken of somewhere on campus, for instance. So that's what you need to do as far as citing your images, the kinds of images you need to find, how to get them uploaded onto your web page, and then make sure they're properly cited. So you want to have at least one on the About page, at least one on your contact page, and then at least a couple of links somewhere on your site as well. Maybe About, definitely Resume, and at least one of those being for Central State University listed on the resume. So I'll make sure to tie up some loose ends on the next video, but this should get you pretty well along with being finished with your About page and your resume page. And so the contact page I'll do next time is going to be quite short. It's very quick and easy to do a contact page. So I'll cover that and some other items, but you should be pretty far along in your website at this point. So let me know if you have questions.